For months, she treated his driveway like it belonged to her, parked there as if it were her private property. The first couple of times he tried patience, but after the second tow, what followed was a collapse so public the entire block witnessed it. Malcolm Price, a black man in his 40s, was known for his calm nature. As a middle school science teacher in Brookhaven, Georgia, patience was part of his job. His life followed a steady rhythm, and his modest brick home was his sanctuary. A tidy lawn, a small driveway, and just enough space to unwind, grade papers, and watch the game in peace. Then, Becky Hensley decided his driveway was hers. At first, Malcolm didn't think much of it. The first time he saw her blue Lamborghini Urus sitting there, he assumed it was an accident. Maybe guests had shuffled cars around. No problem. He let it go. But then it happened again and again. Becky always had some excuse. She was just running inside, or she was dropping something off. She'd toss him a dismissive smile, wave one manicured hand like she was brushing him off, and expect that to be the end of it. Malcolm didn't like it, but he wasn't the type to start fights over something small. Until the day he came home after school, exhausted, stomach growling, ready to collapse on the couch, only to find her Lamborghini parked dead center in his driveway again. This time, she wasn't even around. Malcolm clenched his jaw, took a slow breath through his nose, and walked to her front door. She answered with a smirk, like she already knew why he was there. "Malcolm, what's wrong?" she asked, feigning surprise, her tone dripping with arrogance. He pointed toward the driveway. "Your car's in my spot again." Becky blinked, acting as if the thought had never crossed her mind. "Oh, I was just, I had a delivery. The driver needed space to back out." She smiled as if that should end the matter. "You don't mind, do you?" she added, her voice sweet but condescending. "I do, actually," Malcolm said evenly, keeping his tone controlled. "I need you to stop parking in my driveway." Becky gave a dramatic sigh, her shoulders rising as though he was overreacting. "Well, Malcolm, I live right next door. It's not like I'm some stranger using your property." "You're still parking on mine," he replied firmly. She scoffed, rolling her eyes. "Are you really this bothered by a car sitting there for just a few minutes?" "It's not just a few minutes. It keeps happening," Malcolm countered, crossing his arms. "And I need it to stop." Have you ever had a neighbor who acted like your property was theirs? What would you do if someone kept parking in your driveway like they owned it? Before we go further, what city or country are you watching from right now? Drop it in the comments. We love seeing where our viewers are tuning in from. If you believe no one has the right to treat someone else's home like their own, smash that like button and subscribe to Story Arc, because some battles aren't about driveways at all, they're about standing your ground. Her laugh was sharp, dismissive. Fine, fine. No need to get all worked up. I'll move it. She did move it that time, but it didn't end there. Over the next several weeks, the same pattern repeated. Malcolm would come home, tired after a long day of teaching, only to find her Lamborghini Urus sprawled across his driveway. If he left a note, it mysteriously disappeared. If he knocked, she somehow wasn't home. One evening, it was worse. Malcolm pulled into the street and froze. Her car was in his driveway again, but this time she had company. A shiny black BMW sat right beside it, like his driveway had suddenly become a parking lot. Enough was enough. Malcolm parked on the street, grabbed his phone, and snapped a picture for proof. Then he walked up to her door and knocked harder than usual. She opened it slowly, looking mildly inconvenienced. "Malcolm," she drawled, dragging out his name as though he were interrupting something important. "Whose car is that?" he asked, pointing toward his driveway. "Oh, that? My friend's," she said breezily. "We were having a little get-together. You weren't home, so I figured it wouldn't matter." "It does matter," Malcolm said, his patience wearing thin. "This isn't a parking lot, Becky. This is my home." She folded her arms, tilting her head as if he was the unreasonable one. "Well, you should have said something sooner. I would have moved it." "I'm saying something now," Malcolm shot back, his voice calm but firm. "Move the car." Becky rolled her eyes, but finally stepped inside to call her friend. Malcolm waited. 10 minutes passed, then 15. By 30, he was done waiting. He walked back to his own house, sat on his couch, and started searching for the local towing company's number. But this, he knew, was only the beginning. Malcolm wasn't someone who went looking for trouble. He usually gave people more chances than they deserved, but Becky Hensley had pushed him past his limit. The next morning, Malcolm left one last note on her windshield in big bold letters: "Do not park here again." That evening, the note was gone, and her blue Lamborghini Urus was back, crooked across his driveway like she didn't care. Fuming, he parked on the curb and hammered on her door. After a pause, Becky appeared with a wine glass in hand, perfectly composed. "Malcolm," she drawled, irritated. "I need you to move your car," he told her, his voice steady but clipped. She took a slow sip of wine before answering. "Oh, right. I meant to text you, but I figured you wouldn't mind since you always park on the street anyway." Malcolm's fingers twitched at his sides. He forced himself to stay composed. "I do mind. This is my property, Becky." She laughed, short, sharp, and mocking. "Seriously? You're losing it over a driveway?" He stepped closer, his jaw tight. "No, I'm losing because I've told you again and again to stop, and you keep ignoring me." Becky swirled the wine in her glass, rolling her eyes like his words were nothing more than background noise. "Fine," she muttered. "I'll move it." Malcolm exhaled slowly, willing himself to let it go. He turned, ready to walk back toward his own house, until he caught something under her breath. Not clear, but sharp enough in tone that he knew it wasn't friendly. He stopped mid-step. "What did you just say?" Becky blinked innocently, lips curving into a sly smirk. "Nothing." "No," he pressed, eyes narrowing. "You said something." Her grin widened, smug and unapologetic. "I just don't get why some people are so uptight about the smallest things." That smug dismissal lit a fire in him. Malcolm said nothing, just walked back inside, saved the towing company's number, and waited. That night, her arrogance replayed in his head. She wasn't going to stop, and he wasn't going to keep asking. So the next time Becky's blue Lamborghini Urus blocked his driveway, he didn't knock or leave a note. On that Friday evening, exhausted from the week, he parked on the street, pulled out his phone, and made the call. "I need this car gone." They arrived in less than 20 minutes. The driver hopped out, gave the driveway a once-over, then nodded. "She's parked in your spot?" "Yep," Malcolm confirmed. "Got proof you live here?" Malcolm handed over his property deed. He'd come prepared. "All right then," the driver said, slipping on gloves. "Let's get her hooked." Within minutes, Becky's luxury SUV was lifted off the ground, wheels locked tight. Malcolm stood with his arms crossed, watching with quiet satisfaction as the tow truck pulled away, her car disappearing down the street. He didn't know how she'd react. Maybe she'd scream at his door. Maybe she'd call the police. Maybe she'd pretend ignorance. Whatever it was, he didn't have to wait long to find out. About an hour later, just as Malcolm was settling in for the night, the pounding began. Bam! 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 His front door rattled under Becky's fists. Malcolm didn't rush. He stretched his arms, took his time, and only then opened the door. There she stood, flip-flops, silk pajama pants, hair, mussed from fury, phone clutched tightly in one hand. Her face was flushed with rage. "Where's my car?" she snapped. Malcolm tilted his head, calm as stone. "Oh, you mean the one illegally parked in my driveway?" Her nostrils flared. "Don't play games with me, Malcolm. Where is my Lamborghini?" He shrugged casually. "Towed." She froze, mouth falling open in disbelief. "You did what?" "You heard me," Malcolm said evenly. "You wouldn't stop parking in my driveway, so I had it removed. Simple as that." Becky laughed bitterly. "You'll regret this. I'm on the HOA board. I have connections." Malcolm blinked, unfazed. "Good for you. Your car's at Ironclad Towing off Nolia Parkway. Have a nice night." He closed the door. Outside, she ranted for 10 minutes, her fury sliding into threats before she finally called the police. When the officers arrived, they barely hid their amusement. "You had her car towed from your own driveway?" one asked. "Yep," Malcolm said, showing his deed. The cop turned to Becky. "Ma'am, he's within his rights. You'll have to pay the impound fee." Her face went crimson, a picture Malcolm almost wished he could frame, but he knew this wasn't over. Instead of stopping, Becky doubled down. First came the passive-aggressive notes about community spirit, which Malcolm tossed straight in the trash. Then came a string of HOA complaints. By the fourth one, he wasn't even angry, just impressed at the effort. Malcolm walked up to her porch, calm and steady. "I'm done playing games, Becky." His voice was steady, low. "I've given you more chances than you deserved, but since you won't stop pushing, let's see what happens when I push back." For the first time, she looked uncertain. And she had good reason to be, because the next time she parked her Lamborghini in his driveway, Malcolm wasn't just planning to tow it. He was going to make sure the lesson stuck. A week later, after a Saturday gym session, Malcolm turned onto his street and froze. Becky's blue Lamborghini Urus was parked squarely in his driveway, this time blocking his garage. Bold, deliberate. He put his car in park, stepped out, and made the call. "This is Malcolm Price. Same spot as before. I need a car towed." On the other end, the dispatcher chuckled knowingly. "Let me guess. Same vehicle too?" "You got it," Malcolm said. 15 minutes? We'll be there." Malcolm smiled. This time, Becky was going to get the message. He popped his trunk, pulled out a couple of folding chairs, and set himself up right on his porch, arms crossed, waiting. The tow truck arrived fast, efficient as ever. The driver hopped out, tugged on his gloves, and gave Malcolm a half smirk. "We doing this again?" "Looks like it," Malcolm said. The man shook his head, amused. Some people never learn. With zero hesitation, the driver backed the truck in, hooked Becky's luxury car, and started lifting. The sound of the hydraulics filled the air, and that's when she burst out of her house. "Stop! What are you doing?" Becky shrieked, her voice cutting through the quiet neighborhood. Malcolm leaned back in his chair, sipping from his water bottle like he had all the time in the world. The driver didn't even glance at her. He was busy strapping down the wheels. She stormed across the yard, eyes blazing. "Malcolm! You called the tow truck again?" He raised one eyebrow. "You parked in my driveway again." Her fists clenched. "I had guests over. There was no street parking." "Not my problem," Malcolm said, his tone calm, almost casual. "You're being petty," she snapped. "I told you I would have moved it." Malcolm sighed, relaxed in his chair. "Here's the thing, Becky. You've told me that before. And yet, here we are." Her face flushed crimson, the kind of red that looked painful. "You don't understand what you're doing. I have connections. I can make your life very difficult." Malcolm shook his head, amused. "Becky, you don't get it. Your car's already gone." She spun, eyes widening at the sight of her Lamborghini halfway down the street. Her scream ripped through the air. "You'll regret this." Malcolm rose slowly, dusting off his jeans. "No, Becky, you will." By the next HOA meeting, she wasn't the queen bee anymore. She was the problem. Neighbors had complaints stacked against her. False security calls, petty fines, years of harassment. When the board finally voted, Eleanor Whitmore announced the decision. Becky Hensley was stripped of her position. Within weeks, she stopped speaking to Malcolm altogether. No smug smiles, no complaints, no more cars in his driveway. A few months later, a "for sale" sign appeared in her yard. When the moving truck finally pulled away, Malcolm stepped onto his porch, breathed in the quiet, and smiled. For the first time in months, his driveway was his again. If you believe bullies only win when we stay silent, smash that like button and subscribe to Story Arc for stories that put bullies in their place.